What if I told you that Sigmund Freud's most controversial and heavily suppressed research could hold the key to understanding female behavior? What if I told you this research, buried beneath a century of political correctness and societal restraint, reveals a psychological blueprint that explains everything from hypergamy to emotional manipulation? What if I also told you that by mastering this blueprint, you could gain an almost unfair advantage in the realms of love, power, and life itself? Strap in. This is about to be the darkest, most uncensored psychology series you'll ever encounter. Most men will never understand women, not because they're incapable of it, but because they've been lied to. Society has fed them fairy tales. Just be yourself. Treat her like a queen. Love conquers all. Yet, reality paints a far different picture. Divorce courts are overflowing. Loneliness is an epidemic. A generation of men has wandered aimlessly through relationships they don't comprehend. They don't understand why the things that seem to work for everyone else, sincerity, commitment, devotion, don't seem to make a difference. But here's the truth. The answers have been hidden in plain sight all along. And the most powerful secrets? They were locked away in a vault of Freud's work that society tried to cancel and bury forever. Freud's most explosive and suppressed research didn't focus on the Oedipus complex, the ID, or the ego. It was a series of private lectures that explored something far darker and more taboo, the psychosexual dynamics of female choice. In these lectures, Freud dissected the female unconscious with an analytical precision so intense that even the most cutting-edge psychologists of today would tremble in discomfort. One case stands out among them, a haunting example he called the Wolf Girl of Vienna. In 1897, Freud began treating a wealthy socialite who appeared, on the surface, to embody elegance, grace, and everything a woman of her status should be. She was admired by all, intelligent, charming, poised, but behind the scenes, she was a different woman altogether. She tormented her suitors, drawing them in with affection and promise, only to abandon them without a trace, disappearing for weeks without explanation. Freud's investigation into her behavior uncovered a disturbing revelation. At the age of 6, this woman had witnessed her mother systematically destroy her father's reputation in their community. The lesson she learned from this traumatic experience: power is not something you take. It is something you extract. And women, especially in their formative years, learn exactly how to do that. This is where it takes a truly dark turn. Freud uncovered that female desire doesn't operate on simple concepts of good men versus bad boys. It operates on polarity, the tension between safety and danger. He documented case after case where women, despite having loving, doting husbands, were drawn to men who presented a far greater sense of unpredictability, chaos, and danger. Why? Because the unconscious mind craves narrative conflict. It isn't love that she's seeking. It's the drama, the unpredictable tension that keeps her engaged. But don't just take Freud's word for it. Modern studies confirm this unsettling truth. A 2012 study from the University of Texas found that women are 52% more likely to engage with men who exhibit a characteristic Freud termed as controlled unpredictability, men who keep them on their toes, creating just enough tension to maintain their interest. Further studies, such as one from the Journal of Social Psychology, reveal that women rate men as more attractive when they believe other women desire them, regardless of whether or not the man is objectively attractive. This is no coincidence. It's evolutionary wiring. Women are wired to respond to competition, to tension, and to the very push and pull that Freud identified in his forbidden research. So what's the takeaway? Most men are playing a game of checkers, unaware that women are playing 4D chess. The rules of this game have been hidden from them, but once you see the board clearly, you can't unsee it. The real question is, do you want to remain blind, or do you want the map to unlock the truths that have been kept from you for over a century? But what if I told you there's a second layer to female psychology? One so dark, so powerful, that even Freud hesitated to reveal it in public. A psychological force that governs almost every decision she makes. And once you learn to master it, you'll never be manipulated again. Asterisk. The shadow circuit. Most men never realize they're being played. They believe love is a logical equation. If they're good enough, work hard enough, sacrifice enough, and prove their worth, they'll be rewarded. They buy into the lie that relationships are about fairness, that being the perfect provider is enough to win a woman's heart. But the truth is far more unsettling. Women don't fall in love with providers. They fall in love with provokers. And Freud's suppressed research reveals the deeper psychological mechanisms at play. Buried in his private notes was a concept he called the shadow circuit, an unconscious mechanism that governs attraction, beyond reason, beyond morality, and often beyond a woman's own understanding. Freud's research uncovered a shocking truth. What a woman says she wants and what she actually responds to are often polar opposites. And the men who unlock this circuit don't just succeed with women, they rewire them. Take, for example, the case of the Countess and the stable boy. In 1901, Freud was consulted by an aristocratic woman who had abandoned her titled wealthy husband for an illiterate stable boy. Society was outraged. How could she throw away wealth, status, and security for a man who could offer her none of those things? But Freud uncovered the dark, hidden truth. Her husband, once a powerful figure, had become predictable. He worshipped her. He deferred to her every whim. He was a man who, without realizing it, had become her emotional servant. Meanwhile, the stable boy, he ignored her. He disappeared for days at a time, and when he was present, he was unfazed by her beauty. And that indifference? It set her on fire. This wasn't an anomaly. Freud's archives are filled with similar case studies. Women who despised men who obeyed them, yet became obsessed with those who resisted them. Why? Because the female unconscious doesn't crave love, it craves conquest. Women don't want to be handed a man's attention. They want to earn it. They want to fight for it, and in doing so, they unlock the primal part of themselves that responds to challenge and resistance. Modern research confirms this dark reality. A 2017 study in evolutionary psychology revealed that women are significantly more attracted to men who exhibit what Freud called selective emotional unavailability. Translation? The less you care, the more she does. But Freud's research goes even further. He discovered a pattern in female behavior he dubbed the testing mechanism. Without realizing it, women test men to see if they'll break under pressure. They pick fights, withdraw affection, and create drama not out of cruelty, but because their unconscious minds are constantly probing for weakness. The man who folds under pressure, who gives in, who chases fails. The man who remains unshaken, calm under fire, he triggers something primal. History is filled with examples of this phenomenon. Take Cleopatra, for instance. She didn't seduce Julius Caesar and Mark Antony by being submissive or sweet. She challenged them. She manipulated them. She forced them to prove their dominance. And in doing so, she made them obsessed with her. Even today, studies show that women are more likely to stay in relationships with men who occasionally exhibit this controlled indifference, men who seem just a little bit unavailable, just a little bit out of reach. So, what's the lesson here? Chivalry, at least in the way society has taught it, is dead. Nice guys don't finish last, they don't even get to play. The game is rigged, but the rules? They're crystal clear. Her desire isn't sparked by your devotion. It's sparked by your depth, by your ability to be both present and elusive. To create emotional tension she cannot ignore. The man who wins her heart is not the one who gives her everything, but the one who makes her feel like she can never fully have him. The addiction protocol. There comes a moment in every man's life when he comes to an unsettling realization. Love isn't given, it's taken. Not through brute force, not through cruelty, but through something much more potent. Psychological leverage. Freud called this phenomenon the addiction protocol. It's not about manipulating a woman into loving you, it's about understanding the raw, unfiltered mechanics of female desire, and using that knowledge to make yourself utterly unforgettable. Take the case of the opera singer and the poet. In 1905, Freud documented a case that stunned even him. A celebrated soprano, at the height of her career, abandoned everything, her wealth, her family, her fame, all to chase a penniless writer who treated her with utter indifference. When Freud asked her why she made such an extreme decision, she couldn't explain it. All she said was, "When he's near, I feel alive. When he's gone, I feel hollow." Freud's diagnosis? Intermittent reinforcement. The poet didn't shower her with attention or praise. Instead, he gave it to her in unpredictable bursts, sometimes distant, sometimes present, but always on his own terms. And in that unpredictability, in that emotional chaos, he hooked her like a drug. Modern neuroscience backs this up. A 2014 study at Harvard found that the brain's reward system is far more activated by unpredictable rewards than by consistent, steady ones. This is the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive, and it explains why toxic relationships, while destructive, can also be so hard to escape. The brain craves that unpredictable hit of pleasure, and once it's hooked, it can't get enough. But here's where it gets even darker. Freud didn't just identify that women crave unpredictability. He also discovered that women don't just crave attention, they crave emotional contrast. One of Freud's most controversial experiments involved a group of women who were shown two men, one who was consistently warm, caring, and emotionally available, and another who alternated between warmth and cold detachment. The result was staggering. 73% of the women were drawn to the man who exhibited the erratic, emotional behavior, even when they knew his actions were unpredictable and unreliable. Why? Because emotional stability is comfortable, but emotional tension is intoxicating. This explains why nice guys lose. They provide a constant, predictable line of affection, a steady, unchanging stream. No peaks, no valleys, no danger. Meanwhile, the man who knows how to oscillate between presence and absence, warmth and mystery, creates a dynamic that is almost impossible to resist. It's not about playing games, it's about understanding that female desire thrives on uncertainty. History's greatest seducers knew this instinctively. Casanova didn't win women by being a reliable, ever-present companion. He won them by being unforgettable. He would disappear for weeks, only to reappear with a letter that left them breathless with desire. Napoleon didn't write to Josephine with flowery words of adoration. His letters were meticulously calculated masterpieces of emotional push and pull, always keeping her on edge, always keeping her craving more. Even today, research shows that women report higher levels of attraction to men who maintain an air of controlled unavailability, a man who isn't constantly available, but is always just within reach, tantalizing and mysterious. So, how do you apply this? First, break the pattern of predictability. Stop answering her texts immediately. Stop always being the one to make plans to chase her down. Pull back, let her wonder. Let her chase. Second, create emotional contrast. Be warm, but never desperate. Be engaging, but never obvious. The goal isn't to make her doubt your interest, to make her hungry for it. Make her crave you and make her question why she does. Freud's next discovery would shake the very foundations of modern psychology. Hidden deep in his private asylum notes was a case so disturbing it remained locked away for a century. The eternal trigger. There's a hidden truth about women that most men will never fully grasp. They don't fall in love with the man in front of them. They fall in love with the man who unlocks something inside them. Freud's most explosive research didn't focus on seduction, it focused on transformation. He discovered that the key to eternal devotion lies not in how you treat her, but in how you change her. Consider the case of the sculptor and the muse. In 1909, Freud analyzed a famous artist who had a long string of lovers, brilliant, beautiful women who abandoned their lives to be with him. But what baffled observers was this: he never begged for their affection. He didn't chase them. He didn't promise forever. Instead, he did something far more potent. He made them see versions of themselves they didn't even know existed. One woman, a shy, reserved artist, described it like this: with other men, I was a prize to be won. With him, I became someone I didn't recognize, wild, fearless, alive. Freud called this emotional alchemy. It's the process of turning a woman's latent potential into an addictive need for your presence. It's not about flattery or empty compliments. It's about creating tension. It's about showing her a version of herself she's never seen before, one that exists only when she's with you. Modern psychology backs this up. A 2018 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people are most attracted to partners who expand their self-concept, partners who make them feel like a better, more dynamic version of themselves. But here's the catch: this isn't about praise. Empty compliments create temporary pleasure. True emotional alchemy requires friction. The sculptor didn't tell his muse she was beautiful. He told her she was wasting her life. He didn't praise her, he pushed her. And in that friction, something sparked inside her. That spark became an obsession. That push was the key to unlocking her emotional need for him. This mirrors the findings of relationship expert Esther Perel, who argues that love thrives in the space between comfort and challenge. The men who become irreplaceable aren't the ones who make a woman feel safe. They're the ones who make her feel evolving. But how do you apply this? First, become a mirror of her potential. Most men reflect back what a woman already knows about herself: her beauty, her charm, her talent. The alchemist reflects something she could be. If she's talented but lazy, don't cuddle her, challenge her to bet on herself. If she's brave but complacent, push her to confront her fears. Second, make your presence a catalyst. The goal isn't to be her escape from reality. It's to be the reason she confronts it. The greatest lovers throughout history understood this. Lord Byron didn't seduce women with poetry. He seduced them by making them want to be the kind of woman who inspired that poetry. Picasso didn't just paint his muses. He recreated them. He didn't celebrate their beauty, he challenged it. And in doing so, he turned them into obsessions, even. Today, studies show that women are most likely to stay loyal to men who disrupt their self-narrative in exhilarating ways. The men who don't just accept her as she is, but make her feel like she's becoming more every day. They are the ones who leave a permanent mark on her heart. Freud's final discovery was even more profound and terrifying. Hidden in his private asylum notes, he documented a case so disturbing it was locked away for 100 years. The story of a woman who became physically ill when separated from a man she consciously despised. This wasn't love. This wasn't obsession. This was something far darker and more primal. And the terrifying truth is, you can activate this same biological switch. The biological lock. There comes a point in every great seduction where something shifts, where her interest stops being a choice and becomes a compulsion. Freud's most forbidden research reveals that this shift is not a poetic exaggeration, it is biological reality. In his censored Vienna diaries, Freud documented the case of a woman so psychologically bound to a man who mistreated her that, even when given the chance to escape, she chose to stay. When asked why, she gave the most terrifying answer of all. Because when I'm with him, I feel like myself. This wasn't Stockholm Syndrome. This was something deeper. What Freud termed psychosexual imprinting. Just as ducklings bond irreversibly to the first moving object they see after hatching, human beings, especially women, can develop primal attachments under specific, intense conditions. Modern neuroscience confirms it. MRI scans show that intense romantic love activates the same brain regions as addiction to cocaine. This is not metaphorical. This is chemical, biological, and real. But here's what most men miss. This is not about being nice or cruel. It's about triggering a series of biological dominoes that, once fallen, cannot be reset. The process begins with what psychologists call effort justification. When someone invests significant emotional energy into a relationship, especially through pain or challenge, their brain rewrites itself to believe that the reward must be worth the struggle. A 2016 Yale study found that women who underwent emotional turmoil early in a relationship reported stronger long-term attachment to their partner than those in smooth-sailing romances. This explains why the men who play the hardest to get off them inspire the most devotion, not because women enjoy suffering, but because the brain conflates difficulty with value. The more challenging the path, the more rewarding the destination. But Freud discovered something even darker. He identified a critical window, usually between 3 to 6 months of intense emotional interaction, where a woman's subconscious locks in or rejects a partner. Freud's notes describe it as the threshold of no return. Cross it successfully, and her attraction shifts from psychological to physiological. Miss it, and no amount of later effort can recreate that spark. The key to unlocking this irreversible attachment lies in the simultaneous activation of her pleasure and pain centers. This is not about being hot and cold. It's about creating experiences that are so electrifyingly memorable, so rich in emotional complexity, that her nervous system associates you with being fully alive. History's most legendary lovers understood this instinctively. Casanova didn't just seduce women. He orchestrated experiences that blended ecstasy with anxiety. One famous account describes how he would take his lovers on midnight gondola rides through Venice's dark waterways, alternating between whispered poetry and sudden heart-stopping plunges into the murky depths. The result? Women didn't just remember him, they craved him at a cellular level. Modern studies on episodic memory show that emotionally charged experiences, especially those blending fear and excitement, create stronger and longer-lasting neural pathways than mundane pleasures ever could. So how does the modern man apply this? First, become synonymous with intensity. The worst thing you can be is forgettable. Plan dates that engage her senses completely, midnight drives to unknown destinations, spontaneous trips, anything that breaks the monotony of the mundane. Second, master the art of contrast. The brain prioritizes memories with emotional peaks and valleys. Be the man who can take her from laughter to profound conversation, to physical exhilaration, all in a single evening. Finally, and most crucially, never let comfort become complacency. The moment your presence becomes predictable is the moment you lose the biological edge. Lasting attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being impossible to metabolize. The men who occupy permanent space in a woman's mind aren't the ones who gave her the most. They're the ones who made her feel the most. If this series unsettled you good, that means you're paying attention. The world doesn't need more comfortable lies. It needs men who dare to see the truth. If you want more unfiltered psychology, dark philosophies, and the forbidden knowledge they tried to bury, don't forget to subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Now drop the word unlocked in the comments below if you're ready to go deeper. And remember, some secrets aren't meant for everyone, but they were meant for you.